he's right about that.
Abby, it's more than just that. Not only does Donald Trump have money, he has money with the RNC, he has money with his super PACs, and his money has money. Look at all of the tech billionaires that are around him now. There is an indefinite amount of money. And I believe wholeheartedly that the Des Moines Register, very much like ABC Disney, is going to capitulate. And I believe that Donald Trump has actually figured out a way how to change the way that media deals with issues, whether it's...
Are you worried at all about this, Scott, just where it could go? Not just the Donald Trump of it all, but I mean, if he's creating precedent, it's for everybody.
Well, when you introduced, Michael used the word narratives, and I think one of the reasons Republicans are cheering on this muscular attitude from Trump and pushing back against some of this is because Republicans feel like constantly media organizations, especially in the throes of campaigns, work overtime to create false narratives that may shape the contours of the election. Look what happened. When this poll came out in Iowa, the entire English-speaking world was talking about the gold standard pollster, and Harris has this momentum, and ultimately what we were told was complete garbage. And if you talked to pollsters at the time, they would have told you, this is not real, this methodology is not good anymore. But that's not what people chose to run with because it fit what most people in the press wanted the narrative to be. So he's pushing back on that. I don't frankly have a problem with it, and if they capitulate, it's because they don't want to go through the discovery and what that might show.
You're a practitioner, Scott. I mean, it's a bad poll. A bad poll is a bad poll.
It's worse than a bad poll.
I hate to say it, but Scott is actually right about this one. I hate to say it because Scott and I very rarely agree on anything. He's right. He's right. He's right about this in the fact that sloppy journalism, sloppy polling, and what they did. Look, I was the recipient of more than 100 lies. And I understand what Trump is doing in terms of changing the way defamation cases are brought in this country. You may remember the allegations. I was in Prague, never been to Prague. I was in Czechoslovakia. I paid $10 million to Kompromat. I have a house next to Putin in Sochi. None of this is true. On top of that, there was another one that came out as an example where I allegedly was paid $400,000 by Poroshenko to create a meeting between him and Donald Trump during the presidency. That is also not true.
So do you think it should be easier? You believe it
No,
should
I
be
think
easier
that media has to do their job. They have to actually, they need to get the facts
wait a
right.
second.
Wait.
One person on the podcast, Joe Rogan. All of these people are Trump supporters. What media are you talking about that's anti-Trump?
You're not familiar with the anti-Trump media?
You're not familiar with the fact that you guys control for everything
of all the
podcasts?
things I've heard you say out here, that might be the nuttiest.
Scott,
believe me, there's plenty of anti-Trump media.
Scott, what I'm basically trying to say is that you guys have taken over the airwaves. You guys have taken over the radio airwaves. You guys have taken over podcasts. You guys have taken over pretty much, and now you're sitting here complaining because all you guys do is whine and complain. Your entire raison d'etre is have grievances. You don't actually think about leading. You just think about having grievances against the media.
I'd like
against
to add a
anybody who's
grievance
anti-Trump.
if I could.
I can keep going here.
Just another grievance is that Republicans are frustrated. They feel as though the media has been out against them. Some of that is social media. Some of that is influencers. Some of that is just false narratives. And I think that this poll was just sort of the final straw, and people felt like it was somehow deliberate. That was a deliberate attempt.
That's the word of the day, deliberate. What happens when it was deliberate? That's the whole point that Donald Trump is trying to explore right now. What happens when that deliberate fake poll comes out and does actually alter? Now, by the way, you forgot about X, you forgot about Truth Social,
Thank you, yes,
and so
thank
on.
you.
But what happens when it is deliberate? And that's why I believe that ABC ended up folding, because they did not want discovery to take place.
Yeah.
There's no other reason, as far as I'm concerned.
They folded because they wanted to suck up to Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, just weeks away from being invested with the immense powers of the presidency, calling for a criminal investigation into Liz Cheney over witness tampering after a report from House Republicans singled her out, accusing her of colluding with a witness on the January 6th committee and recommending she be investigated for possible criminal prosecution. The president-elect weighing in on Tuesday's report just 3 hours ago, saying this on his Truth Social platform, quote, Liz Cheney could be in a lot of trouble based on the evidence obtained by the subcommittee, which states that numerous federal laws were likely broken by Liz Cheney, and these violations should be investigated by the FBI, end quote, 3:11 a.m. this morning. The president-elect there, referring to the report released yesterday by a Republican-controlled House subcommittee, alleging what it called, quote, the failures and politicization of the January 6th Select Committee, end quote. The report calls the committee, quote, a political weapon with a singular focus to deceive the public into blaming President Trump for the violence on January 6th and tarnish the legacy of his first presidency. Among the report's allegations against Cheney that she colluded with one of the committee's witnesses, Cassidy Hutchinson, who served as an assistant to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Hutchinson provided testimony about Trump's actions on January 6th, including recounting a story she was told about an interaction the president had with his Secret Service driver.
The president said something to the effect of, I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now. To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
The statement, Cheney refuted the report's findings. She says that it, quote, intentionally disregards the truth and the Select Committee's tremendous weight of evidence and instead fabricates lies and defamatory allegations in an attempt to cover up what Donald Trump did, end quote. What did Donald Trump do?
From The Guardian, House Republicans report contradicts witness account of Trump's wheel grab. U.S. House Republicans on Monday released a report they said contradicted sensational January 6th committee testimony in which a former aide to Donald Trump described being told that as the attack on Congress unfolded, the then president was so eager to join supporters at the Capitol, he tried to grab the wheel of his car. Quote, the testimony of 4 White House employees directly contradicts claims made by Cassidy Hutchinson and by the Select Committee in the final report. Read the report by the House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight, which searched for alleged bias or malpractice in the January 6th investigation. Quote, none of the White House employees corroborated Hutchinson's sensational story about President Trump lunging for the steering wheel of the beast, the report said, referring to the colloquial name for cars that carry the president. Quote, some witnesses did describe the president's mood after the speech at the eclipse. It is highly improbable that the other White House employees would have heard about the president's mood in the SUV following his speech at the eclipse, but not heard the sensational story that Hutchinson claims Anthony Ornato, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, told her after returning to the White House on January 6th. Hutchinson, a former aide to Trump, and his final chief of staff, Mark Meadows, testified before the January 6th committee in private and in public. Now, here's all these alleged text messages in which Alyssa Fair Griffin, the Trump deranged panelist on The View, she was acting as an intermediary between Liz Cheney and Cassidy Hutchinson without the knowledge of Hutchinson's personal attorney, right? So you can see the alleged text messages here in which they acknowledge that what they're doing is unethical, okay? This is what Alyssa Fair Griffin said to Hutchinson, that Cheney, quote, one concern was so long as you have counsel, she can't really ethically talk to you without him. Yeah, so they acknowledge that what they were doing is wrong, okay? And again, the allegation here is that Cheney colluded with Hutchinson and Alyssa Fair Griffin to basically come up with some of these false stories against Trump, right? Some of these smears against Trump that came out during this select committee. And that's essentially what's going on here, right? And this is why they're afraid of investigations.
On Truth Social, quote, Liz Cheney could be in a lot of trouble. He was referring to claims in a new House Republican report calling for Cheney to be prosecuted for her work on the January 6th Select Committee. The report accuses her of witness tampering.
These comments come after Donald Trump sat down for an interview with NBC and essentially said that all the members of the House Select Committee that investigated January 6th should go to jail. And he has had a particular fixation on Liz Cheney. He brought it up in that interview, and he brought her up multiple times on the campaign trail. She is someone who has really gotten under his skin. Now, the reason why this holds so much more weight now is given the fact that, one, he is going to be president, but two, who he has installed to what he hopes is be the head of the FBI, because part of this is essentially the committee saying that Liz Cheney should be prosecuted by the FBI, which in Trump's world, if all goes according to plans, would be run by Kash Patel, a Trump loyalist who we believe, based on everything we have seen from Patel over the last several years, would do whatever it was that Trump wanted, including potentially prosecute Liz Cheney. So I do want to talk a little bit about what's in that report. So here are some of the key findings from that subcommittee report that was sent out by House Republicans. It says Liz Cheney colluded with, quote, star witness Cassidy Hutchinson. Again, these are the key findings. Liz Cheney should be investigated for potential criminal witness tampering. Liz Cheney used the January 6th Select Committee as a tool to attack President Trump.
Cassidy Hutchinson, I saw you went and gave her a hug after she testified.
It was unpatriotic. It was un-American. We were watching the Capitol building get defaced over a lie.
Why did she go where so few have gone before?
What Cassidy Hutchinson did was an unbelievable example of bravery and of courage and patriotism in the face of real pressure.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel.
People outright said that she's not telling the truth, that Cassidy Hutchinson's not telling the truth about what happened in the presidential motorcade.
The committee is not going to stand by and watch her character be assassinated by anonymous sources and by men who are claiming executive privilege. And so we look forward very much to additional testimony under oath on a whole range of issues.
Well, speaking of President-elect Trump, he posted this on Truth Social this morning. We showed to our viewers that former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney could be in a lot of trouble based on her work on the January 6th committee. He has said he would like to see members of that committee go to jail. Obviously, you know that there was a House Republican report on January 6th that recommends that there be a criminal investigation into Liz Cheney. Do you think there should be a criminal investigation into Liz Cheney, one of your former colleagues?
If she broke the law, why should she be exempt? If I guarantee you, if Manu Raju or you broke the law, they drag y'all into court in chains. And why should she be exempt?
You don't think Liz Cheney broke the law, do you?
If she manipulated this thing, if she met with people, if she coached them, as they're saying, if she talked to them on a secret website, which they're saying she did, if she coached them, if she altered evidence, if she withheld evidence, then she broke the law.
What's the evidence? What's the evidence of that? I mean, the report came out just days after Donald Trump said that Liz Cheney and other members of the committee should go to jail. Aren't they just doing his bidding?
What's the evidence that Matt Gaetz has other than a report? You've got a report. It's the same thing. That's why people do not trust the media. You have a double standard for one and not for the other. If she didn't break the law, then she's fine. But if she did break the law, she should be held accountable. What is wrong with them asking questions?
The House Ethics Committee. The House Ethics Committee is voting to release this report, presumably with some Republican help. This is a House Republican report on January 6th recommending that Liz Cheney be criminally investigated. Isn't this Banana Republic stuff?
Why is she being exempted from the law? Everybody who broke the law should be exempted. No, it's not Banana Republic. If she broke the law, I don't see why that's such a hard thing. If she didn't break the law,
there's no evidence she broke the law.
Fine.
There's no evidence she broke the law. They just looked at what happened on January 6th, and Donald Trump's attempt to overturn a free and fair election.
Other than Barry Loudermilk, who's a very respected member of Congress, doing his very long investigation and very tiring investigation into this. And if they found it, I think it ought to be brought to light. If not, then she's fine. I don't have a problem with them investigating that.
You want the government to go after Trump's political enemies?
If they broke the law, I don't care if they're my political enemies or they're my friends. If they broke the law, that government, they ought to be brought in and they ought to be brought to justice. There shouldn't be. That's what we talk about all the time. That's why Trump's in the White House, because there is two systems of justice in this country, and you can't have it both ways. You have got to. It's got to be straight and right down the middle. You can go back and watch all the tapes that the conservatives put out of the Democrats saying there's not two forms of justice. There's just one. Well, there is two forms of justice. The Biden White House, obviously, they're releasing criminals, they're releasing pedophiles, they're releasing Chinese communist spies, and at a record number, and nobody's paying attention. There is two systems of justice in this country, and I'm tired of them, and you should be either.
Congressman, I mean, you don't think that the January 6th committee should have investigated what took place at the Capitol?
Well,
I know you don't believe that. I know you don't believe that.
If they investigated, why didn't they call me in? I volunteered. I was the last person to leave the House floor, the last House member. Myself, Markwayne Mullin. Neither one of us was called in to see what we saw, doesn't it show what leadership? All they did was investigate the political wherewithal. It was a witch hunt from the start. That's why the final episode of that crazy thing, there was more people watching reruns of SpongeBob on the Cartoon Network.
Is this about getting revenge? Is this about Trump getting revenge? And House Republicans going along with it?
It's about justice. When we point the finger at somebody who's not kind to us, you all automatically assume it's political. If it's political, then why not play it out into the court of public opinion? You sure had it played out on January 6th, and you never called anybody in. It was all a political witch hunt. They stacked the committee. They didn't allow then Speaker McCarthy to appoint his two people that he wanted.
You and I talked about this before. Congressman, you and I talked about this. It would never have happened in the first place if Trump had just honored the results of that election, but that's all the time we have. Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee.
That's not the point.
Jim, I hope you have a very politically incorrect Merry Christmas, brother. And remember, you're going to be invited back into the White House under the Burchett administration.